We do not exist as a product of self-isolation. If self-fulfillment is the meaning of one's existence, there is no incentive to compromise any of one's desires in consideration of group survival and the future outcome of our progeny. We only have the luxury of being present now because of the sacrifices of our ancestors, and it is essential that we are attentive to the condition we create for our descendants as well, or they will suffer the consequences of mass psychosis and certain death. When we build a mental construct by which we become atomized from our higher calling as fallible beings with a finite existence and need of each other for sustainability in the long term, we leave abandoned any conceptualization of what is to be the fate of those who must live with the consequences of our actions in a time after which we are no longer alive. To say this is not meaningful because we shall not personally experience it is to take for granted those whom came before us to have made it possible that we may even exist in the present to make such a choice, to have become complacent and entitled to the resources that were procured over generations for us through a shared effort. Do what thou wilt, and that shall be the whole of the law, cannot serve as a morality that truly takes into account the consequences of our actions beyond the scope of the temporary paradigm within which we as individuals currently have the luxury to be living. Let's refer to the lesson that has been demonstrated already in history, yet long forgotten. If we all found it more appealing to concern ourselves only with our economic interests, yet the majority failed to copulate and successfully prepare their progeny to carry on the skills of survival, it may be the case that we would enjoy the fruits of a short-lived golden age, but we would also procure our extinction. Libertarians would say no initiation of violence ever occurred, so it must be okay. Yet the tolerance of this neglectful behavior to instead serve self-aggrandizement and greed would be the cause of the inconceivably barbaric environment left remaining, in which the people we made a creed to that we should never harm ultimately languish in agony and perish as a result. How could we look the other way and not recognize this as no less a mass murder than any deliberately orchestrated genocide? Let's also not forget, if we live only for our own desires, we not only have despicably betrayed our ancestors and our descendants, it is this false sense of freedom that also causes us to be transformed into a state in which we may be enslaved. One can tell himself or herself that they have full autonomy, yet in fact his or her desires can be calculatively manipulated by external forces in order to condition him or her into an obedient slave that has no true will outside of the perimeters of pursuing what he or she has been programmed to believe are objects of his or her desires.